The night it all began didn't feel like a beginning. Felt like an obligation. Emily's company's annual Christmas party. The kind with mandatory fun and lukewarm appetizers. She begged me to come. Said it would mean a lot if I showed up. I had my doubts. I should have trusted my gut. It was hosted in one of those trendy rooftop lounges downtown. The kind where the walls are mostly glass and everyone pretends it's not freezing because there's an expensive heat lamp every 6 feet. When we walked in, the place was glowing with soft amber lights and fake snow falling from the ceiling. Everyone was already 2 drinks in and laughing too loudly. Emily looked amazing that night. Red silk dress. Hair pinned up with just enough undone strands to make it seem effortless. I remember watching her slip on her lipstick in the passenger mirror as we parked. "Festive, huh?" She joked and gave me a quick wink. She was electric around people. That was her thing. Charming, quick with a joke, somehow able to make everyone feel like they were in on something. The second we got inside, she peeled off her coat, grabbed us drinks, and disappeared into a group near the fireplace. All co-workers, all familiar. I stood behind her for most of the night, sipping a warm gin cocktail, smiling when people introduced themselves. No one really cared who I was. I was Emily's husband, and that was enough. A few handshakes, some small talk. She never looked back to see if I was still there. Eventually, someone, a guy from marketing I'd never seen before, called for everyone's attention. "We're playing a game," he announced, clapping his hands together like a camp counselor. "It's fun. Don't be boring." It was supposed to be harmless. Just a round of silly party questions. You know the type. What was your first concert? What's your guilty pleasure movie? Stuff that keeps people drinking and avoids politics. Then the host grinned and said, "Okay, here's one. If you had to kiss someone here, other than your partner, who would it be?" People laughed. Some groaned. It was the kind of question meant to provoke giggles and fake outrage. Most people brushed it off or gave safe answers like the bartender or no one, I'm loyal. But not Emily. She didn't pause. She didn't even look at me. She pointed straight at Tyler. Tyler from sales. The guy with perfect teeth and that annoying casual confidence. The same guy who once liked 3 of her selfies in a row and commented, "You always glow at golden hour." The guy who once, supposedly, mistook our anniversary dinner for a team event and just happened to be at the same place. That Tyler. I watched her point at him like it was a joke. Her smile wide, her voice light, her eyes shining with whatever buzz she was riding. Some people laughed. One woman gasped and covered her mouth. Tyler raised his eyebrows, and for a second, he looked genuinely flattered. I stood stiffly at the edge of the group, trying to pretend it was funny. I forced a laugh that didn't sound right in my throat. Then the host, already drunk on his own bad ideas, clapped again. "Let's make it fun. Come on, Em. Kiss him for the vibe." A few people cheered. Others looked around awkwardly. It was the kind of moment that might have passed, that she could have laughed off. She could have rolled her eyes and said, "Come on, I was kidding." But she didn't. She turned to Tyler and kissed him. Right there, in the middle of her coworkers, while the music played and everyone pretended to sip their drinks like nothing out of the ordinary had just happened. It wasn't quick. It wasn't a joke. It wasn't for show. It was long enough for me to notice how she tilted her head, the way she does when she's into it. Her hand touched his shoulder, and his touched her waist, like it wasn't the first time. I didn't breathe. I didn't move. She didn't look at me once. They broke apart, and the crowd clapped and laughed nervously. Someone whooped. A woman near me whispered, "Well, that was bold," and chuckled like it was just part of the holiday chaos. Emily turned back to her drink, cheeks flushed, clearly enjoying the attention. Tyler leaned in and whispered something that made her laugh. Her hand brushed his arm. Still no glance in my direction. I was invisible, and in that moment, something clicked. Not like a snap, more like a slow, grinding shift in my chest. A gear locking into place. I didn't make a scene, didn't raise my voice. I didn't throw a drink or walk up to demand an explanation. There wasn't one. She already made her choice. So I walked away. I set my half-empty glass on the edge of a cocktail table, zipped up my coat, and walked out of the rooftop bar into the December night. The cold hit me hard, but it was the first thing that felt real all evening. The streets were slick with leftover snow, the kind that doesn't crunch. It just soaks through your shoes and reminds you you're still here. I waited for her to call. She didn't. I figured she'd notice I was gone in 10 minutes. She didn't. By the time I got to the train station, I checked my phone once. Nothing. No missed calls, no messages, not even a question mark. And somehow that silence told me everything I needed to know. I woke up on my brother's couch the morning after the Christmas party, still wearing the same clothes from the night before. My coat smelled like cheap cologne and pine-scented air freshener. My mouth was dry, but I couldn't bring myself to drink water. I just lay there staring at the ceiling, feeling numb. It wasn't just the kiss. Not really. It was what the kiss confirmed. I didn't leave her over a stupid party game. I left because that moment, the way she pointed at him, the way she kissed him like no one else was watching, suddenly made all the things I'd pushed aside click into place. Everything I had ignored or explained away was now staring me dead in the face, daring me to keep pretending. And I couldn't anymore. That day, I started tracing back the moments. Little things. Fleeting thoughts I'd brushed off as insecurity or bad timing. But now they weren't isolated. They were pieces of a puzzle. And when I started putting them together, the picture they formed made my stomach twist. Started with the coat. 3 weeks ago, she came home late from an all-hands team dinner. She was wearing this long camel-colored trench, expensive-looking, and not hers. I remember asking, half joking, "New coat?" And she said no, she had left hers at the office by accident, and someone let her borrow theirs. I believed her. I even remember smiling and saying, "Looks better on you anyway." She gave me this light laugh and started pulling off her earrings before disappearing into the bathroom. Later that night, I found the coat still hanging by the door. I reached into the pocket looking for her keys and pulled out a receipt from some boutique bar I'd never heard of. 2 drinks, a flatbread, and 1 glass of Syrah. 1 person. Huh? She told me they'd gone to a brewery. I threw the receipt out. I didn't want to overthink it. Another piece. The meetings. The last 2 months, Emily had developed a sudden obsession with late-night Zoom calls and off-site brainstorms. They always popped up on Wednesdays and Fridays. Days she'd normally be home in sweats by 6, curled up on the couch with a blanket and reruns. Now, she was coming back around 9, sometimes later, hair done, makeup still fresh. At first, I admired her work ethic. Said something dumb like, "Climbing the ladder, huh?" She smiled, kissed my forehead, and went straight to the shower. Sometimes I'd offer to drive her to those meetings. She'd decline. "It's fine. I'll grab a ride with Becca or Kira." Her tone was always breezy, like I was sweet for offering, but unnecessary. Sometimes I'd text to check in while she was out, and I'd get short replies, "Busy RN?" or "Talk later," with a heart emoji tacked on at the end like a period. Back then, I didn't think much of it. Now, I couldn't stop thinking about it. Another night floated back into memory. I'd woken up around 2 a.m. and rolled over to find the bed empty. Not just empty, cold. She hadn't been there for hours. I got up groggily, assuming maybe she fell asleep on the couch, but she wasn't downstairs. Then I saw the hallway light glowing under the bathroom door. I knocked. She cracked it open, looking startled. Her phone was still in her hand. "Everything okay?" I asked. She blinked, hesitated just for a second. "Yeah, sorry. Couldn't sleep. My stomach's been weird." I nodded. She reached over and turned the light off. Now, I remember the way she looked over her shoulder as she walked back to bed. Like she was waiting to see if I believed her. I did, at the time. But now I couldn't stop asking myself, who texts at 2 a.m. and smiles at the screen? The signs were there, not blaring alarms but soft warnings. The kind you only hear when you're quiet enough to listen. Even her phone habits had shifted. She used to leave it lying face up on the kitchen counter while she cooked, or on the nightstand while we talked before bed. Now it was always near her hand, always face down, and it never buzzed. She changed it to silent, So it doesn't distract us, she claimed. It distracted me anyway. One night I teased her about it. Got a secret admirer or something? She rolled her eyes. God, you've been so paranoid lately. That was the first time she used the word paranoid. I remember exactly how she said it. Sharp. Not joking. I tried to laugh it off. Just messing with you. She didn't laugh back. It's strange how your brain holds onto the tone of something long after the words disappear. Like it knows which pieces will matter later, even if you don't. Then there were the photos. A week before the party, we were sitting on the couch flipping through old vacation pictures on our shared cloud album. She was looking for something to post for a hashtag throwback. I scrolled past an unfamiliar folder, Studio Christmas Bash. I clicked it without thinking. Just a few pictures. Candids. A group sh*t of her department. A blurry one of Tyler in a Santa hat. Another of Emily holding a wine glass and laughing at something off camera. I asked when they took those. Oh, we did a little pre-party at the office, she said quickly. Nothing major. Just pizza and a white elephant gift swap. I believed her. She even leaned her head on my shoulder and said, God, I miss when all our photos were just of us. Now that line plays like a joke I didn't get at the time. It wasn't just what she did. It was how she slowly started fading out of the frame of our life. We used to share everything. Grocery runs, random memes, plans for the weekend. But lately she'd grown quiet, distracted, not cold, just distant. Like she was living a second version of our life somewhere else, and only checking in when she remembered she was still technically married. She'd come home humming songs I didn't recognize, laughing at jokes I hadn't heard, mentioning inside stories from work without context, like I should already know them. Tyler came up more often. Tyler tried to juggle during the meeting today. Tyler brought those weird gingerbread Oreos again. Tyler's planning the team karaoke night. At first it felt harmless, just office chatter. But eventually I realized, I didn't know if she ever mentioned me at work. Not the way she talked about Tyler at home. It all felt too small to confront, too easy to dismiss. Until the kiss. That kiss at the party wasn't a joke. It was a flag planted on a battlefield I didn't even know we were fighting on. And now, every memory I replayed came with new context. Like watching a movie again and catching all the clues you missed the first time. I sat in my brother's kitchen that night while he and his girlfriend watched TV in the next room, and I opened a blank note on my phone. I started typing everything I remembered. Times, places, moments, things I'd brushed off. It was a list I didn't want to make, but I needed to see it. I needed to stop gaslighting myself. I wrote, coat that wasn't hers. November 28th. Late, strategy dinner with Tyler and co. Came back tipsy. No group photos, December 3rd, 2 a.m. Texting in bathroom, said it was stomach pain, December 9th. Studio Christmas Bash folder, December 15th. Ignored call during team karaoke night, December 18th. Changed phone passcode, December 20th. Kissed Tyler at party, December 22nd. Seeing it all listed like that, it hit differently. It wasn't just a few oddities anymore. It was a pattern, a slow erasure of trust, one unexplained moment at a time. And still, part of me wanted to be wrong. Part of me hoped I was connecting dots that didn't exist. That maybe I was being bitter or bruised or dramatic. That maybe she really had just gotten lost in work stress or the holidays or whatever else people get tangled up in. But then I remembered the kiss. And how she didn't look at me, and how no one noticed I was gone. That was the truth, no matter how kindly I tried to paint over it. On the third day after the party, I opened our shared cloud photo album. I didn't plan to look. That's the part that still sticks with me. I wasn't digging for dirt, wasn't trying to play detective. Honestly, I just couldn't sleep. I'd been crashing at my brother's place for 3 days by then. His guest room was barely big enough for the air mattress and my duffel bag. The walls were thin, and I could hear every whisper of the TV through the floorboards, every squeak of the dog's collar when it moved in the night. I lay there, scrolling through my phone to pass the time. You know that dumb loop, news, email, messages, back to news. But eventually, My thumb hovered over our shared cloud album. I hesitated. I hadn't touched it since before the party. It was originally her idea, a folder we both could access so we could drop in photos from vacations, date nights, birthdays, random stuff. Memories. We'd built a life in that folder. A visual map of our time together. That's where I went when I wanted to remember who we were. But that night, when I tapped the icon, it didn't feel like nostalgia. It felt like pulling at a loose thread just to see what unravels. I scrolled past all the familiar photos. Our trip to Sedona. My birthday dinner. A blurry *T of us in matching hoodies, eating pancakes at midnight. And then I saw a new album I hadn't noticed before. Christmas After Party Wineglass. The title alone made something tighten in my chest. I clicked. The first photo was harmless. Tyler making a face at the camera, reindeer antlers crooked on his head. The next one showed a group from her department holding plastic champagne flutes, half collapsed in a too-tight selfie. Emily was in the middle, her cheeks flushed, her smile huge. She looked happy, not forced, not faked, radiant. Then came the one. Someone had taken it from across the room, slightly out of focus. But it was clear enough. Emily and Tyler. Mid-kiss. Not the playful let's shock our coworkers kind. No, this was full. He had one hand on her hip. She had both arms around his neck. Their bodies leaned into each other like gravity had given up and decided to let desire take the wheel. There was no joke in that kiss. No wink. No laugh after. Just them. Frozen. Like no one else existed. I stared at it for a full minute, my thumb hovering just above the screen like touching it would burn me. I zoomed in even though I didn't need to. I already knew what I was seeing. But some part of me needed to be sure. To confirm that it wasn't a trick of the light or a weird camera angle. Nope, that was my wife. And that was Tyler. The background was filled with blurred lights and half-visible coworkers. The kind of party energy that lets people pretend the rules don't apply for a night. I scrolled again. Another photo, this time a selfie, taken by Emily. She was sitting at the bar, holding her phone slightly above her, her smile soft, not posed. And in the bottom corner of the frame, there was a hand. Tyler's. They were holding hands. Not dramatically, not performative, just resting fingers laced on the bar like it was normal. Like this was routine. Like it had happened before. I felt the air leave my lungs, but I kept scrolling. And then a *T of a chat. It wasn't a full conversation. Just a message she'd sent to someone named Jess Spiral Shell. It read, I don't care about the consequences. It was the first time in a long time I felt alive. That was it. Nothing else. I locked my phone, sat up, sat still, stared at the ceiling. She hadn't just kissed someone. She had crossed a line so far back. She couldn't even see it anymore. She had planned this. Maybe not the kiss itself, but the feeling, the escape, the indulgence, the rebellion. And me? I wasn't even part of the equation anymore. She'd stopped asking herself how it would affect me. And that was the part that hurt the most. Not the kiss. Not even the photos. It was the sentence. I felt alive. Like I was some emotional grave she'd crawled out of. Like our marriage had been a coma she'd finally shaken off with Tyler's help. As if all the memories, the support, the thousands of tiny efforts I'd made. Holding her through job losses, cooking for her when she had the flu, cheering her on through late-night deadlines. None of it mattered anymore, because I didn't make her feel alive. I'd made her feel, what? Safe? Stable? Trapped? Whatever it was, it clearly wasn't enough. So that night, I made a decision. No confrontation. No dramatic goodbye. Just removal. I went back into the cloud album and clicked the tiny settings icon in the top right corner. Remove myself from shared album? Yes. Then I did something I hadn't done yet. I opened the Notes app. Made a checklist. Bank accounts. Password changed. Shared utilities. Remove name. Cloud storage. Exit. Rent. Figure out. Move things in small batches. No big drama. Just go. I didn't want to give her the fight. I didn't want to be the villain in her story. I didn't want to beg, or rage, or cry in front of her. I wasn't going to give her that kind of ending. So the next morning, I woke up early and packed what I needed. Clothes, laptop, charger, important papers, one photo of us, from years ago, before the cracks. Everything else could stay. I left my keys on the hook by the door, took the spare set to my brother's place, told him I'd be staying longer than expected. I texted my landlord, asked if the lease could be revised. He said we'd figure it out. I got a P.O. box. I forwarded my mail. I removed my name from every shared account, Netflix, Spotify, grocery delivery. Anything that tethered me to her routines. I disappeared quietly. I wasn't trying to hurt her. I just wanted to stop hurting me. And still, nothing from her. No calls. No, where are you? No panic. No guilt. She either hadn't noticed or worse, noticed and didn't care. Either way, I was out. Out of the apartment, out of the cloud, out of the narrative she was writing. And even though it felt like someone had hollowed out my chest with a spoon, it also felt clean, clear, like I had finally stepped outside of something heavy and toxic and beg asterisk end to breathe again. I went down to the bay, where my brother used to take me fishing as kids, and sat on a bench until the wind numbed my face. The sky was gray, the water still. My phone buzzed in my pocket, and for a second, I thought, maybe it's her. It wasn't. Just a promotion from my bank. I turned it off and watched the boats drift in the harbor. And for the first time in what felt like months, I wasn't waiting for anything. I was just watching, letting the truth settle, letting it all go. She didn't notice right away. That detail matters more than I wish it did. I had already been gone for most of the day. My side of the closet empty, my toothbrush missing, the spare charger no longer tangled near the bed. The apartment was quieter than usual, stripped of the small disruptions I used to cause without realizing it. But she didn't notice any of that until evening settled in and routine demanded my presence. That's when her first message came through. Where are you? No punctuation, no concern, just confusion, like she'd misplaced something and expected it to turn up on its own. I stared at the screen from my brother's kitchen table. The phone vibrated again before I could even set it down. Did you go out? Another pause. Then, hello? I didn't respond. 10 minutes later, the calls started. One after another. I watched them light up the screen, my name flashing like a warning she'd ignored for too long. I didn't pick up. I didn't decline. I let them ring until silence returned. Eventually, the tone shifted. Please answer. Then, this isn't funny. And finally, say something at least. That was the first time she sounded unsettled. Not guilty, not sorry, just inconvenienced by uncertainty. An hour later, she sent a photo. The apartment, empty. My side of the bed untouched. The space where my shoes used to sit by the door now bare. Caption. Seriously? You ran away over that? That's when I replied. One message. One sentence. When you chose him in that game, I had already left. Nothing else. No explanation. No accusation. No emotion. I put my phone face down and went for a walk. By the time I came back, there were no new messages. No calls. Just silence, the kind that feels heavy, like someone on the other end is finally thinking. The next day, my brother told me she'd shown up at our parents' place. I wasn't surprised. That was always her move. Escalate outward, involve witnesses, turn confusion into a shared event. She must have thought I'd run there like a kid after a fight. I hadn't. By then, I was already gone again. I'd driven 2 hours south that morning, past familiar exits and cities that no longer had anything to do with me. I found a small studio near the bay, nothing fancy. Just a room, a window, and a sense of separation I desperately needed. I paid the deposit on the spot. Didn't even negotiate. Signed my name like it was the first real decision I'd made in months. Then I changed my number. I didn't block her. I didn't want the drama of that. I just removed the door. Later that night, my old phone buzzed. The one still tied to shared accounts I hadn't fully untangled yet. A message came through from her email instead of her number. You're being dramatic. It was a stupid party thing. You embarrassed me. I didn't reply. Another email followed an hour later. My parents don't understand what's happening. Can you at least talk to me like an adult? Still nothing. The third message came just before midnight. I don't know why you're doing this. We can talk this out. That one almost worked. Almost. But then I remembered the photo. The hands. The sentence about feeling alive. And I closed the app. She didn't show up at the studio. She didn't know where it was. She couldn't. Not without asking, and asking meant admitting she'd lost control of the situation. That realization hit her harder than any argument ever could. By the third day, the panic shifted into something else. Mutual friends started texting. Hey man, what's going on? Emily seems really upset. Did you guys have a fight? I gave the same response every time. I'm taking space. Not leaving. Not divorcing. Just space. Let them fill in the blanks however they wanted. I wasn't hiding. I just wasn't available anymore. And for the first time since that kiss, since the party, since all the small moments I ignored, I felt steady. She had chosen chaos. I chose distance. And distance, I was learning, was its own kind of peace. It took a week for the silence to break publicly. For the first few days, things were quiet, or maybe it just felt that way from where I was, tucked into a small rental with a mattress on the floor and a borrowed mug for morning coffee. I stayed off social media, ignored the newsfeed algorithm that still thought I cared about Emily's friend's baby shower or Tyler's new career milestone. I didn't want updates. I didn't want context. I just wanted stillness. But stillness never lasts. It was my friend Jason, a guy from college who ended up working in corporate HR, who broke the news. He sent me a link with no caption. Just the link. At first I thought it was a mistake or spam. But I tapped it. It was a video. Vertical. Phone quality. Slightly shaky. The person recording was behind the crowd, half hidden behind a Christmas tree. You could hear muffled music playing over the speakers. Last Christmas? Or something equally ironic. People were gathered in a loose circle, and at the center of it, there she was. Emily. Red dress. Champagne glass in one hand. Laughing. The audio cut in right as someone, the host, shouted, "All right. Who would you kiss here besides your partner?" The crowd hooted. You could hear someone shout, "You're gonna get people in trouble." Emily didn't hesitate. She pointed. "Tyler." The camera zoomed slightly, catching her full face. Smiling, giddy, flushed. Then came the next line, the one I'd heard in person but somehow hurt more the second time. "Should we make the choice real for the vibe?" More cheering. Laughter. And then it happened. She kissed him. Again, the video didn't lie. It wasn't playful or flirty or awkward. It was confident. Familiar. And then, right as they broke apart, the voice behind the camera, quiet but unmistakable, said, "Isn't her husband right there?" The camera tilted slightly, panning toward the edge of the frame, but I was already gone by that point. You just saw an empty space. I closed the video. Jason texted again. "Did you see the comments?" I hadn't. I didn't want to, but I looked anyway. Thousands of views. Dozens of comments. Some from coworkers, others from people just passing through. Damn, Emily went full villain mode. Tyler doesn't care about his job or his wife, huh? Plot twist. Her man was literally standing there. I'd evaporate. I stopped reading. It didn't feel good. Not really. It didn't feel like justice or payback. Felt dirty. Like watching someone burn down the house you built together, and now people were live streaming the ashes. The next day, the video hit office group chats. I know because two of her coworkers, people I barely knew, messaged me to say, "Sorry you had to see that," and, "If you ever need someone to talk to." I didn't answer either one. But from what Jason told me later, things unraveled quickly. First came the whispers. HR being looped in, management pulling Tyler into meetings. His wife apparently found out within 48 hours of the video going semi-viral. Not from him. From a mutual friend who had screen recorded it and sent it with a single word. Explain. Turns out Tyler had a wife and 2 kids. Married 8 years. Lived in the suburbs. His Instagram, now private, used to feature #dadlife in the bio. Not anymore. He was asked to step down from a major account. His team was reassigned. A week later, someone leaked that he'd been terminated for violation of company conduct. Emily wasn't mentioned, but it didn't take a genius to put the pieces together. She wasn't fired, but she may as well have been exiled. People stopped sitting with her in the break room. Someone started leaving anonymous notes on her desk. Hope it was worth it. Does your husband know you're still here? A group of girls she used to go out with every Friday blocked her on Instagram. Her stories, once filled with clinking glasses and boomerangs of fancy cocktails, turned into long, quiet gaps. Then came the muted gray selfies. No makeup, no captions, just silence. I didn't enjoy it. I didn't celebrate. I didn't forward the video to anyone or post a cryptic quote about karma on my own feed. I just stayed quiet and watched from the distance I had created. And that distance, more than anything, became a shield. I wasn't being dragged into the drama. I wasn't the betrayed husband everyone pitted at the office. I wasn't in that world anymore. But Emily still was. And it was caving in on her. Her parents called me. I let it go to voicemail. Her mom, polite, strained, voice cracking, said, "We'd really appreciate hearing your side of things. Emily is having a hard time." She said hard time like it was a phase, like Emily had gotten a flat tire or missed a flight, not wrecked a marriage and humiliated everyone involved. I didn't respond. I moved my stuff out of storage that weekend, found a cheap furniture set online and set it up myself. Every nail I drove into the wall felt like a declaration. I live here now, without her. Neighbors who used to wave when we walked Nelson, our old dog, now looked away when they saw her. One woman even crossed the street. I know this because my old neighbor Michelle emailed me. Just wanted to say you didn't deserve that. Hope you're doing okay. I thanked her. Emily, meanwhile, was spiraling. I know because she finally sent a letter. Physical one. Not an email. Not a text. Actual pen and paper. The handwriting looked messier than I remembered. Rushed. Uneven. It was 5 pages long. The first page was blame. You ran like a coward. You didn't even talk to me. She said I disrespected our marriage by disappearing. That I should have fought for us. The second page tried to reframe everything. It wasn't real. It was a mistake. You know me better than anyone. You know I wouldn't do this if I wasn't hurting. The third page was a guilt trip. Do you remember that night we stayed up until 4 a.m. planning our future? Do you remember how you used to kiss my forehead before work? Don't those memories matter to you anymore? Page 4 was desperation. You can't just throw away 5 years because of one night. I'm not okay. I need to talk to you. I don't know who I am anymore. The 5th page was blank except for one line. Please let me explain. I folded the letter and put it in the back of a drawer. I didn't reply. I didn't write some poetic takedown or send back a single-word response. She'd had plenty of time to explain. And she used that time to lie, to sneak, to choose someone else while expecting me to wait on the other end of the fall. That wasn't how this worked anymore. A few days later, I heard she went to the cafe we used to go to every Saturday. She sat at our table, ordered my drink, sat there for over an hour, waiting. I wasn't in the city anymore. She knew that. But I think it wasn't about seeing me. I think she just wanted someone to see her waiting, to look at her and feel what she used to feel when the world adored her, when attention was something she could sip like a cocktail. But no one came. No one watched. Because whatever us used to be, it didn't exist anymore. She shattered it. And I refused to sweep up the pieces for her. With no job, no friends returning her texts, and a reputation in ruins, Emily started sending me letters. At first, they were angry, calling me a coward, accusing me of abandoning her. Then came the guilt trips. You're just erasing everything we had? Finally, she broke. Please just talk to me. I don't even know who I am anymore. I never answered. She showed up at the cafe we used to visit every Saturday, ordered my drink, sat at our table, waited. I wasn't in that city anymore. Maybe she knew that. Maybe she just wanted someone to see her sitting there. Like if she looked sad enough, it would bring me back. But I wasn't coming. The version of me that would have come back. He left the moment she kissed him. And whatever we were, that died with the silence that followed. December 31st. I sat by the fireplace in my new place, a dog named Nelson at my feet, and a mug of tea in my hand. My phone buzzed. A message from Lauren, an old friend I hadn't spoken to in years. "Missed your disappearances," she wrote. I replied without thinking. "Wanna be the direction I disappear to?" She sent me an address. I drove. She opened the door in pajamas, looked at me, smiled. "You're different now." I shrugged. "Better." She nodded. In that moment, I realized Emily hadn't ruined my life. She'd cleared the wreckage. And standing in the warmth of that doorway, I didn't feel broken anymore, just free.